Live from a NASCAR bunker in Kyle's parents' basement, it's Turn the Radio Off with Mike Parsons and Kyle Bauer.
Fan at Facebook.com/TTRO Show. Follow along on Twitter.com/TTRO Show. Or just listen right now. It's Turn the Radio Off.
I just can't do it anymore. What's that old Toby Keith song? I ain't as good as I once was. I'm entering that point in my life where I'm starting to realize there's things that I used to be able to do that I can't do anymore. And maybe it's for the best, you know. Of course, I'm talking about the Easter buffet yesterday. I can't crush it like I used to. I only made it through one trip, 2 plates altogether. I used to have a philosophy when it came to the buffet. It was me versus the buffet, and if the buffet didn't lose money on me, then it was a wasted trip. Of course, I never succeeded, but damn did I have fun trying. And yesterday, went with the extended family over to the Easter buffet, and I was all ready for at least 2 trips and at least 4 plates. And after the first plate, I was really struggling, and I said to myself, this is a young man's game, and I know when it's time to hang it up, which is probably for the best, because at 31 is about the time that people's metabolism starts slowing down. So if I was still eating like I was when I was 16 and my metabolism slowed down, I probably would gain another 300 pounds, and I'd be one of those guys that could never leave the bed. You know, you see them when they die, they have to be removed via forklift, and they have to tear down the side of the house. So maybe it's for the best. Maybe this is nature's way of telling me that, look, you're not a growing boy anymore. At least you're not growing up anymore. You're growing out, and you're growing wide. So, hey, what the heck. Well, of course, the Easter holiday is over, and that means that this cluster bleep of an election is resuming in full force. And just before we start getting to the ugly, to the knockdown, the drag down, I want to say that amongst all the mudslinging and all the heated rhetoric, now this isn't really an endorsement on Bernie Sanders, but I'm sure everyone's seen the video where Bernie Sanders was like a senior citizen Snow White. He was giving a speech in Portland, Oregon, which, by the way, Bernie Sanders swept the caucuses and or primaries this weekend, and he's not too far behind Hillary Clinton. More on that in a minute. But he was out doing a rally in Oregon, and in the middle of the rally, a little bird, as if it was a Disney movie, glided down from the air and landed gingerly on his lectern. And the crowd went nuts. And, of course, the memes are all over the place. My favorite one is the one where it shows Donald Trump being attacked by a bald eagle. Then it shows the one of Bernie Sanders smiling at said gentle sparrow that landed daintily on his lectern, with a gentle smile on his face as well. And it says, nature has spoken, and they know who they want to be president. And, just in such an ugly election season, it was a nice positive moment, and it was really enjoyable to watch. But, Bernie Sanders, he's no joke right now. He is making a legitimate run at Hillary Clinton. Now, the Bernie Sanders camp, and I think they're justified in doing this, have been saying since the beginning, look, Bernie is not as far behind Hillary Clinton as you may think, because there's this thing called the superdelegates. And the superdelegates are a hand-picked group of people, looks like just over 500 people, who their vote is it's equal to a delegate. So, us poor schlubs, we're just a couple of delegates within a larger population of the state. But if you're a super delegate, your vote counts for a whole heck of a lot more. Now, right now, Hillary Clinton has 482 superdelegates to Bernie Sanders' 27 superdelegates. And the thing about the superdelegates is they don't have to be pledged until the summer. So the popular vote count is Hillary Clinton 1,251 to Bernie Sanders 1,012. So he's just a little bit over 200 points behind her. But with the superdelegates, she's at 1,733 to Bernie Sanders 1,039. And, of course, this comes after there's been a lot of talk about the Republican leadership strategically shooting for a contested convention where Donald Trump doesn't get the magic number of votes necessary to become the automatic nominee for the Republican presidential race. So there's a contested election, and a contested convention. And at that contested convention, certain people will lobby and they will campaign to be the hand-picked Republican nominee. And we're also looking at a very real scenario where Bernie Sanders could theoretically get the most votes in the primary and Hillary Clinton be the Democratic nominee. So it's dangerous territory. It's a hypothetical situation where there's a possibility that the two candidates that got the most votes in the primaries will not be the nominees for the respective parties for the President of the United States of America. And that's very, very dangerous territory. Now, I'm almost to the point where I say, make sure Donald Trump doesn't win the presidency by any means necessary. No pun intended. But you're in very real danger of telegraphing to the American voter that their vote does not count. And that's going to be devastating to the electoral process. And I see a lot of people staying home and a lot of people giving up on the electoral process if that is the scenario. Because why the hell would you go out and vote in the first place? It was a waste of time. It was a waste of time for not only the candidates and the people who are working to get them elected, operating under the assumption that if you get the most votes, you will be the nominee. But it was a waste of time for everyone who went out and volunteered, everyone who went out and voted. And I think it would just be a very bad situation. And I've been thinking about this. And look, if Donald Trump goes into the Republican National Convention with the most popular votes, and somehow he gets the nomination taken away from him, it won't bother me too much because, like I said, that's a specific situation, and I think we have seen what a Donald Trump presidency will do to the country with his inflammatory rhetoric. I mean, if you just look at his rallies as a microcosm and then you apply that to the United States, it's very alarming. But on the other hand, we get the president we deserve. So whoever we vote for, that's the person that we're going to get, for better or for worse. And let's be honest, I don't believe that Donald Trump is going to be Adolf Hitler. Of course, anytime there's an unpopular president out there, someone has superimposed Hitler's facial hair onto their face, which I think is inflammatory and lazy in itself. But I truly, he's not going to become Hitler where he's going around and killing millions and millions of his own citizens. I think he'll be more of a watered down Joseph McCarthy. the senator in the 50s who brought about McCarthyism and was accusing everyone and their mother of being a communist and parading them in front of Congress and grandstanding and getting them blacklisted from their respective businesses. A lot of it was in Hollywood. A lot of it was in politics. I see it being more like that. So I'm not pushing the doomsday scenario button if Donald Trump does end up being the presidential nominee and, God forbid, the president of the United States. But, I also think it's something that it's just best to be avoided. But that's just me. Speaking of the ugliness in politics, a story from the National Enquirer has come out about Ted Cruz. And we all know Ted Cruz. He's campaigning on many things. He's campaigning on small government, and he's also campaigning on Christian values and family values and all of that, which is why a story about him having multiple mistresses in the National Enquirer might be damaging to him. And I have to say, right now in 2016, I don't think a sex scandal is a deal breaker. I think a sex scandal being a deal breaker for a presidential candidate, that's very 90s. I mean, some people have been bringing up John Edwards and how the news of his child born out of wedlock with a woman he was having an affair with derailed his political career. But let's be honest, it was kind of over to begin with. He ran for president a couple of times. He didn't make it past the primary. And I don't know if he was up for being senator again, but he had been senator for a long time, and that tenure was nearing its end. And I think not so much the fact that John Edwards was being unfaithful is what turned people off to him. It was the fact that, number one, he was being unfaithful with his wife who was dying of cancer. And the child that he fathered, he went out of his way to keep that kid a secret. He went out of his way to make sure that that kid didn't know who his real father was. And I think those are the two things that really shocked and horrified people, and not so much the infidelity. Because I think most people nowadays, they probably assume if you're that powerful and you're that successful within a profession that's that high stakes, you probably have a couple of mistresses. I mean, I look at these political couples, and I don't see two people who fell in love with each other and got married and decided to build a life. I see two people who are in a loveless, arranged, strategic marriage, almost like an arranged business deal marriage, where, hey, I want to climb the ladder. I want to be a politician, and I need a wife who's of a certain pedigree or a husband. I need someone with money, someone with influence, and you get married, and one back scratches the other, if that's a term. But the Clintons are a perfect example. I mean, I'm sure that Bill and Hillary Clinton probably they probably are more so partners at a law firm right now than husband and wife. And I've been feeling that way ever since Hillary Clinton did not divorce Bill Clinton after all those after his own sex scandals back in the 90s. So I don't think that even if these stories are true about Ted Cruz, it's not going to affect him that much. It doesn't matter to me in my eyes, because the guy gives me the creeps anyway. So whether he's 100% faithful to his wife or he's out and about with every mistress in Washington, D.C., he gives me the creeps, and it just allegedly confirms what I already know of him, or what I already think of him. But looking at this objectively, and I have to be fair, I read on WLS Radio's website that this story of Ted Cruz and his multiple mistresses, it was offered to BuzzFeed, which is weird. I I know BuzzFeed does some legit journalism, but I wonder how that story would have broke. Would it have been like a list that says 21 reasons Ted Cruz's affairs bum us out. And there's a whole bunch of Tina Fey Mean Girl gifs. There's that one gif with Emma Stone going crazy over that, making that face in front of that birthday cake. You know the one I'm talking about. Or there's another one where Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake are giving each other 5. That's the weird thing. Someone offered it to BuzzFeed, whoever leaked the story. BuzzFeed passed on it. The Politico passed on it. The New York Times passed on it. And those are 3 publications that have some credibility, whether it's the New York Times, the gatekeeper of all media, all news, the Politico, a slanted politics website, or BuzzFeed, the clickbait website that does some journalism. Either one of those 3 publications would probably have loved to have had that story if they believed it, which makes me believe, like a lot of people believe, that this story is probably overblown and it's probably a dirty political tactic by somebody. A lot of people are hypothesizing Donald Trump. May or may not be, I don't know. But also I think that the fact that it's only in the National Enquirer, it hasn't even really been picked up by any other news sources. So I think that this is one scandal Ted Cruz will probably survive. But I don't think it matters because, like I said, up until the contested convention, nobody's going to catch Donald Trump. And Ted Cruz is very unpopular within the Republican Party. So I think either way, he was out of the running. But I don't think that this will hurt his reputation as a evangelist and as a man of faith or whatever image he tries to put out there. Got to take a quick break. You're listening to Turn the Radio Off on the internet.
Less rock, more talk. Turn the radio off.
Become a fan at peoplehatemypodcast.com.
Now working the grill, Bill, it ain't so tough. But first of all, you got to check your stuff. Like a grill that's set at 250 with the meat and cheese that's ready to go. A towel to keep your station looking cool. But most of all, you got to have your tools. Are you with me now? Get ready. We're gonna lay them down. Now beats got grain to it just like wood. You got to follow the arrow to lay it down like you should. From the front to the back, you got to lay it down. Space it evenly, not scattered around. Next, you got to salt the meat from the back to the front to make the taste complete. Not too little, not too much. With a little finesse, you'll get the touch. What's coming up next is our key to success. We'll turn the meat and do a 400 press. Don't wait too long, I emphasize, or the meat won't reach the proper size. When things start to sizzle, you're ready to go. Gently turn the meat, but don't be slow. Just turn them over easily. We don't want a broken patty, that's a guarantee. Press out the corners 1, 2, 3, 4. Rock it a bit, are you keeping score? Top and bottom, left and right, and you'll get a patty that's out of sight. Press out the corners nice and wide, at least half an inch on both sides. The reason you press, you gotta think, when the meat hits the grill, it starts to shrink.
We start shrinking when we hit that grill, you know it will. We start shrinking when we hit that grill, you know it will.
When you see red juices on the top of the meat, it's time to give the turn and press a repeat. Do it again just like you did before. Do the 4-corner press just one time more. Now once you press it the second time, don't press them again because the meat's just fine. But when you see red juices rise, turn the patty over to the other side. Don't straighten the grill, we want it wet, you see. And keep the meat moist so it's hot and juicy. When the meat's red juices no longer rise, you can serve that patty, it'll win a prize. It takes about 4 minutes to cook, but just to make sure you can have a look. Use your tool and double check, it should be gray and moist to be correct. And on this place, you're ready to go. Drain the meat, just like so. Once the draining is totally done, place the patty squarely on the heel of that bun. Now there you go, Billy, you give it a shot. Don't be afraid, I think you're gonna be. Now working the grill, Bill, it ain't so tough.
So much fun. It's scary. Become a fan on Facebook at www.ttroshow.com. It's Turn the Radio Off.
All right, hold on. I'm doing something. It's Turn the Radio Off. I'm sure by now you've realized that the show is absolute garbage because I happen to be flying solo. And I'm sure that the observant listener has probably figured that out because that first segment, there was no Kyle at all. And if Kyle were here, you would have heard him at least 65% of the time. Well, I'm trying to jump in and make my next point before I just give up and just let him go nuts and go wild. Kyle must have had too much to eat at the buffet the other day too, because he has a sore throat. I hope it's not mono. He's much too old to have mono. I believe that if you're over the age of 25 and you get mono, that should be considered an STD. Which maybe it is. I don't know. Is mono considered an STD? I guess you can get it other ways. Even though it's called the kissing disease, you can get it from not kissing somebody. Which, what fun is that? Okay. So, by the way, this whole Cuba-United States thing, I don't know. I was kind of hoping Kyle was going to be here because I need to bounce this idea off somebody. The Cuba, the United States thing, I know that, they've been enemies for a while. Not even so much enemies. They just, you know what they were? They're two people who used to be enemies, but now they just don't talk to each other. They just ignore each other. Back in the about 50 years ago, of course, Cuba's government was overthrown by Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, and they set up a communist regime down in the Banana Republic of Cuba. Late 50s, early 60s. I apologize. I should have paid more attention in history class. I don't know the exact date. But, of course, there's a back and forth between the United States and Cuba saying, hey, we helped liberate you from Spain. How can you do this? Fidel Castro told us to go get effed. And we said, guess what, Castro? No American goods are coming in or out of Cuba until you give up this whole communist thing. And for the last 50, 60 years, the people of Cuba have been dying on the vine because Cuba and Castro would not give up the whole communist thing. And if you go to Cuba, from what I hear, from what I've seen on TV, it's like stepping back in time. I mean, people are still they're still driving Corvairs because American cars have not been imported there. And I don't know if Japanese cars are imported there, or foreign cars are, but there's no cars from the United States being imported to or exported from Cuba. And over the last couple of years, President Barack Obama has made it a priority to normalize relations with Cuba. And, the blockade was lifted. The embargo was lifted. American goods could get into Cuba. Cuban cigars could legally come to the United States. And Cubans and American citizens were able to come and go from Cuba as they pleased. And last week was sort of the victory lap. President Obama went to Cuba and he talked to the Cuban people, and a exhibition baseball game was set up between the Tampa Bay Rays, no longer the Devil Rays. Go away in the name of Jesus, Devil Rays. Just the Tampa Bay Rays played against the Cuban national team. And to be fair, it could have been the 6-hour food poisoning that I got on Tuesday afternoon from eating a bad turkey sandwich. But I don't know. I'm just watching this, and I'm like, should I care more about this? Should I care more that the United States and Cuba have normalized relations. I mean, it's great for it was great for that one kid on the Tampa Bay Rays. I forget his name. He's a minor leaguer, but they called him up to play in front of his family in Cuba. They let him hit leadoff. He defected 3 years ago, and he didn't think he'd see his family again for decades and decades. But after 3 years, he's able to see them. And I mean, those personal stories are cool. And, I'm happy for them. But, I mean, me as the normal American citizen, I don't know. I just don't understand how this benefits me one way or the other. I mean, it doesn't harm me in any way, but I just don't see how this is going to improve my life as Joe Q citizen. And maybe that's a little self-centered. Maybe that's a little bit selfish, but I'm just sitting there wanting to die because this rancid turkey is just running amok in my digestive system. But I think if I wasn't sitting on the floor wishing that the Lord would take me home, I still would not have been moved. I still would not have been blown away by a exhibition baseball game between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Cuban national team, especially since I looked it up. And the Baltimore Orioles did one of these things back in 1999. I don't know exactly what the occasion for that was, but I don't know. It just didn't move me, even though the guys on ESPN were trying to sell it so hard, and they were just trying to find any angle, any hook, any heartstring to tug to make me care more about this game. And, I mean, hey, that's great. If, beachfront property in Cuba is cheap, or if I can get myself a nice timeshare at bargain basement prices because it's not quite a vacation hotspot yet, that's phenomenal. But, I don't care. I mean, it's great. It's great for the people who can go home, but I don't know. It's just me not being able to look outside my own bubble. It's Turn the Radio Off on the internet.
The radio off with Machine Gun Mike Parsons.
And guess what? Life isn't fair. You don't always get what you want.
And Kyle Avocado Bauer.
Oh, zombie preparedness kit. I'm a zombie. Lols, lols, lols.
We'll be back in seconds. Turn the radio off. With more Turn the Radio Off on the internet.
Coffee, decaf, tea, and hot chocolate. Those are the hot drinks that you serve so good. Hot cups come in two sizes. Small and large, you fill as the need arises. Coffee's holding time is 30 minutes, that's so long. It can stay there before it starts to taste too strong. Hot, careful when you pour it. Hold it steady upon the counter, let it sit. Pour it in until the coffee reaches the line. Pop a top on it, gets a lid every time. Wendy's coffee tastes so fine. Hot drinks really get you going. Warms you up when you feel you're slowing. Wendy's, we always serve it right away. And a smile and have a nice day. Next is the cafe brew, it's just like coffee. Use the orange pot, it makes it easier to see. But if you're using the packets in your store, put it in the small cup and furthermore. Add hot water up to the line and stir it in. Put a lid on and serve it on a tray again. Get a small cup when you're ready for hot tea. Fill with hot water, it's easy as can be. Put the lid on and set the tea bag on the top. If they want lemon, it's very nice. Don't think twice, give the guests a juicy slice. Hot drinks really get you going. Warms you up when you feel you're slowing. Wendy's, we always serve it right away. And a smile and have a nice day. Grab a small cup when you're making hot cocoa. Pour the packet and then you add your H2O. Use a clean spoon and stir it till it's all mixed up. Toss the spoon out and put the lid on the cup. Things are really looking up. Hot drinks really get you going.
non-stop alt-talk alternative for 1 hour a week. Turn the radio off. Become a fan at peoplehatemypodcast.com.
And I am slowly but surely, check that, I am fastly but surely running out of gas. Solo episode of Turn the Radio Off today. And you know what? I'm trying to think back on the events of my life and the decisions that I've made that led me to this moment where I'm talking to myself in my basement. And I've come to the realization that it's all Kyle's fault. I mean, yeah, I get it. I get it. He's not feeling well. I actually just texted him asking if he can come on for 10 minutes so that I could lick that envelope. But no, he says his voice hurts too much. And, you know, I just want to look him in the eye and ask him, Kyle, do you ever stop to think for a second how you getting sick is going to affect me? Or do you just do it? No, you just do it. You're selfish. So Kyle may or may not be back next week, depending on what kind of weird Canadian norovirus that he contracts. But if Kyle was here, I would tell him I told you so. And I know that we already talked election earlier on in the show, but this would be, well, it's not quite an I told you so moment because it's just one person saying it, but it corroborates one of my many Donald Trump conspiracy theories where I've been saying that it's possible that Donald Trump doesn't really want to be president. That, A, he's either running as a Democrat, trying to take down the Republican Party from the inside, and he's out there saying stuff that he knows that no one in their right mind would vote for a guy who says the stuff that he says, and he may very well be still secretly a Democrat, just as horrified at the success he's having as the rest of us. And a former communication director from a now-defunct super PAC. Her name is Stephanie Silgilski. I'm Polish. I should have an easier time pronouncing that, but I'm one of the dumb Polish, so that's my excuse. She wrote for Exo Jane, that's sort of like a sister site to Jezebel.com, where she writes, I don't think even Trump thought he would get this far, and I don't even know that he wanted to, which is perhaps the scariest prospect of all. He certainly was never prepared or equipped to go all the way to the White House, but his ego has now taken over the driver's seat and nothing else matters. The Donald does not fail. The Donald does not have any weakness. And somewhere in this article, she says that she was given specific instructions by Donald Trump's people to make sure that he finishes in a respectable second place. And I think maybe now they feel like they've opened a Pandora's box that they cannot close. And now that Donald Trump's winning, he can't finish in second place because that would be a failure now. And so this runaway train just keeps going and going. Maybe now Donald Trump's rooting for Bernie and or Hillary because Donald Trump watches himself on TV and says, my God, I'm nuts. I can't be president of the United States. I'm voting for anyone but me. ABM, anyone but me. So there's a former high-ranking Trump campaign ally saying that this has been a giant troll job gone wrong. And by the way, she quit and now she's an adjunct professor somewhere. I forget. It's not important. Anyway, she quit. Now she's teaching college. But another unforeseen political football that seems to be popping up is the bathroom. Of course, transgender issues are coming to the forefront now that more people are identifying as transgender or gender fluid. And there's a lot of talk about it in the mainstream and a lot of consciousness of it as a society. Now, North Carolina took the scorched earth approach where they passed some kind of legislation. People are calling it anti-gay legislation. And I've got to be honest, I don't know the circumstances in North Carolina that have that have led to this. But it seems like ever since gay marriage has passed, that a lot of these southern states are really digging in their heels and trying to pass anti-gay legislation. Or you're Kim Davis in Kentucky, and even though you're an elected official, elected to do the people's business, you dig your heels in, break the law, and become some sort of martyr in the wacko anti-gay community. And you have Mike Huckabee there with your photo op, and people are all screaming religious freedom, even though she is breaking the law. She is an elected official. Her job is to do the work of the people. And now that gay marriage is legal, you are infringing on someone else's legal rights by refusing to sign marriage papers. But anyway, that's all over. I don't know exactly what happened with that, but she's out of the news. So either she's signing those marriage licenses, or she's just getting the hell out of the way and letting someone who actually gives a crap about their job do their job. Well, North Carolina, they passed this bill that would allow state law to supersede any anti-discriminatory legislation that's passed at a local level. So that pretty much means, say you live in Taylor, or you live in Clinton Township, or Plymouth, and these cities have anti-discrimination legislation, right? Like in the city of Plymouth, it's illegal to refuse service to someone because they're gay. So if you want to, if a gay couple comes up into your shop and wants a wedding cake, you have to serve them, or else you're in legal trouble. Well, South Carolina says that, okay, well, your city may have anti-discrimination legislation, but state law supersedes, and the state says you can refuse business to anyone for any reason. So therefore, that local ordinance is meaningless. And tied into that is a law about bathrooms, and talking about the transgendered community. One big question is, okay, if you are a male anatomically, but you identify as a female, which bathroom do you use? Well, North Carolina, part of this law says that you will use the bathroom depending on what anatomy you have. And you know, it's a conversation to have. And me personally, I'm not even sure if personally I'm where I come down on that debate. But it doesn't seem like it's a big enough issue to actually spend time making a law about it. Here in Michigan, in Midland, there was a lawsuit with a gym where a person who was a male, anatomically, they had the male parts, identified as a woman. And so this person changed in the female locker room. A woman in there with her daughter saw that a male, anatomically, in the anatomical sense, was changing in the women's locker room, and she freaked out because she was with her daughter. Now, personally, I don't know if I blame the woman, but the person who was changing, the transgendered male to female, pressed charges against Planet Fitness for discrimination. And this is sort of a tricky issue, and I think it merits a whole lot of discussion, because now the Michigan Educational Board has drafted a proposal that would allow students to pick which bathroom they want to use based on what gender they identify with. And their argument is that, look, when you're in school, when you're a teenager, it's a very confusing time in your life. Even kids who don't have gender issues feel alienated and outcasted. So why don't we let these kids pick their bathroom based on where they feel comfortable? Which sounds good in theory, but I think of high school kids, and I used to be a high school kid. And I think that if I was able to pick which bathroom I wanted to use based on what gender I identified with that day, I may use the female locker room so I could look at some boobs. Now, that doesn't mean that the conversation should end, but I think there needs to be some responsible safeguards put into place. Like, first of all, this rule would take out parental consent. I could see that if the student's a senior and they're over 18, but everyone under the age of 18, maybe if anatomically you're a male and you identify as a female, then get your parents to sign a form or something, and in the school records say what gender you identify with, and then use that bathroom accordingly. So if you identify as a male and you're becoming a female, and the hall monitor sees you going into the women's room, they say, hey, wait a second, you can't use that. I'm taking you down to the principal's office. Well, before they give you detention, they can open up your file and says, oh, well, Steve now identifies with the female, so that was a proper bathroom. And then, you also think, okay, well, what if transgender or gender fluid people had their own bathroom? I think that may be a solution, but it might alienate them. And it's a lot of money for a business to put in a third bathroom. So I don't know. Like I said, Kyle and I have talked about this in the past, and you want to be accepting of people who are legitimately wrestling with their gender. I don't think right now we have a solution to the bathroom thing. Maybe what you do is you do stand up or sit down until you figure something out. But, I could see why, especially if you have kids in school, you're a parent, you're uncomfortable with it. But I can also see how if you feel like a woman trapped in a man's body or a man trapped in a woman's body, and you're 15 and puberty sucks to begin with, how you'd be uncomfortable being forced to use a bathroom that you're not, you don't feel like you belong in. So I wish that I had a solution. I wish I had a hard-line opinion one way or the other, but I don't. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes there are these issues that are so complex and so new, and we weren't really ready to discuss as a society, that you just have to say to be continued, and you have to have civil, intelligent conversations with people to figure out the best solution. So I've got to take a break because, as you can tell, I am out of breath because I'm overweight, and I'm doing double duty this time. Kyle is my super far left moral compass, which really would have been helpful in this segment because I need someone to help tell me what to think. We'll be right back. Let's turn the radio off on the internet.
Turn the radio off with Mike Parsons.
No drug dealers living next to me. Pretty good deal.
Kyle Bauer.
Yeah.
People hate my podcast.com.
When you're talking chili, frosty, milk, or cookies, there's some simple things that you've got to know. Like chili comes in large and small, both for the dining room, and the cups are to go. Always got to make sure that you stir it right before you put the chili in the bowl of cup. Use a figure 8 motion from the bottom to the top to really get it stirred up. For a small serving, get the air plate on full to a half inch from the top of the cup or bowl. For draw arm drop. The remaining frosty will fill the cup. The orders to go, be sure to put a lid on and serve it with a smile. That's why I'm singing this song. Milk and cookies if you please. Milk tender reach and check the expiration date. Make sure it's fresh, serve it with a cup with the open side up. Now don't hesitate. Cookies should be whole, never broken or cracked. Put them on the tray, what a great snack. Chili, frosty, milk and cookies, simple as that. Go have yourself some fun, cause you got the knack.
They talk to a microphone because they're no good at talking to women.
You, me, bar, beers, buzzed, wings, shots, drunk, waitresses, hot, football, Cornell Hofstra, slaughter, then quick nap at my place and we get the kids down.
Turn the radio off.
Well, mercifully, we are at the home stretch of this debacle of an episode. Turn the radio off, the solo edition, for my good friend Kyle is under the weather with an undisclosed illness. As far as I know, it's neither sexually transmitted nor is it fatal, but it's still early, so things could change. All right, so, God, a bit of a bombshell story, sort of. This was big news when it came out a few weeks ago, and it's kind of gone away, and it's reached sort of a perplexing conclusion, which happens a lot in life. I mean, not everything, actually most things, don't get wrapped up in a neat little package. We all remember the controversy, the argument between the FBI and Apple when the FBI acquired the phone of the San Bernardino bomber, his work phone, his iPhone. And after they caught him and killed him, they went through all of his electronics, his computers, but they could not crack the security code for his iPhone. So the FBI went to Apple and said, hey, Apple, how do I get into this? And Apple said, I don't know. It's secret. It's locked. Oh, okay. Well, can you unlock it? No. Oh, okay. Well, can you make some kind of software so that we can access the information at any time? We don't want to bother you. And Apple said, hell no. So you kind of had this back and forth where the FBI looked like they were being punked by a bunch of tech nerds, and Apple looking like a big bad company saying no to the FBI in what they were grandstanding as privacy rights for their customers. Well, of course, the Department of Justice brought a case against Apple saying, okay, well, we are going to make you, using all the legal resources at our disposal, unlock the phone and or make this backdoor software so that we can access this information anytime we want. Well, earlier this week, Apple said they withdrew the lawsuit. I'm sorry, the Department of Justice withdrew the lawsuit from Apple, saying, hey, it's okay, we found someone to crack into the iPhone. We got the info. Forget about it. So Apple looks like they're champions of customer privacy, except for one thing. Now the FBI has somebody that they know who knows how to hack into iPhones. And in a weird way, Apple may have defeated its own purpose. Because if Apple would have just said, okay, look, we're not going to give you access to all of our customers' phone information anytime you want, but we'll crack this one phone in the interest of national security. Apple would have said, the FBI would have said, cool, thanks, Apple. Well, now the FBI, they went on a crusade trying to find someone who could hack into iPhones, and now they found one. So now, anytime they want to hack into any iPhone, they just confiscate the phone and give it to whoever they had crack it. So I think that Apple actually screwed itself and screwed its customers in the name of privacy, where they've done the opposite. Where if they would have just given the information for the phone to the FBI to begin with, the FBI would have been satisfied and they would have stopped bothering Apple. And all of Apple's customers' privacy would have been protected. And now they know how to get. So Apple's going to have to find a way to be a step ahead of the FBI, which they fought them for a while. I think this story came out in January. For a good 2 months, Apple bested the FBI. But let's be honest, if a government investigative entity wants to find something, they're going to find it. So, yeah, I mean, Apple, optics-wise, Apple looks like they're champions of privacy, but I think they would have actually protected their customers' privacy if they would have just taken that one phone and let the FBI have access to it. So we'll see. We live in a very voyeuristic society, right? If you think about all the social media platforms we have, the big four are your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Snapchats, your Instagram. I don't think Yik Yak is a player here. I don't know. I tried downloading Yik Yak one time because I have this fear. Like, I think back to when I was 12 or 13 and just how much ahead of the curve technology-wise I was in front of my parents. And I wonder if that's going to be me eventually. One day I'll wake up and my 12-year-old is so much more technologically savvy, so much more internet savvy that as a paranoid dad, I won't be able to be overprotective and weird because they're one step ahead of me. So I try to find out what the kids are into and at least become conversational in it. And Yik Yak is just one that I didn't get, but luckily it hasn't taken off. I would argue, though, that maybe the fifth biggest social media platform is Reddit. And look, everyone's the star of their own movie. But now everyone has a whole bunch of platforms where they can put that movie on display for a lot of people, so to speak. And there's this one guy. His name is Banano Splat, a Redditor. He found out that his girlfriend was cheating on her when she left Facebook Messenger open one night. So it was her birthday, and he found a way to get back at her, which, this is somewhat clever. He got her card that says, "This card will feel heavy." And then inside it says, "It is packed with tons of good thoughts." He crosses out tons of good thoughts, and it says, "Your house key." And he writes underneath it, "Now that you're single, you don't need to feel guilty about your sexually charged texts with Michael," not me, I swear, "going on dates with Jared, or about getting drinks tomorrow with Derek." And this would have been a great troll. And this would have been a great way to break up with somebody who's wronged you. Except for one thing. The idiot put it up on Reddit before he gave it to his girlfriend. And I don't think people who use Reddit realize how many people use the social media platform. Reddit feels like everyone's sort of special little secret, even though everyone's on it. In fact, the new news cycle is 4chan, Reddit, Yahoo, Good Morning America, your mother's Facebook. That is the news cycle. So Reddit is the second part of that news cycle. So, of course, this girlfriend's best friend sees it. He calls the girl and ruins the surprise. Or I guess, if that's the right word, the surprise. I mean, she dumps him before he can dump her and get this great troll going. And then he wrote an update under it. "It's ruined. Thanks, Reddit," in all caps. Bro, what you do is you carry out the troll first, and then you post it on Reddit. What do you think's going to happen? Especially something like this, assuming it's real. This could be another troll out there. There's a lot of marketing companies who get paid a lot of money to make these things go viral. But it's just very weird how people put their whole lives out there on display, and then they get mad when their privacy is invaded, or they get mad when they try to do something like this, kind of creative, if not spiteful, and get pissed off when the surprise is ruined. And, I say it all the time. Everyone likes to worry about the NSA and the government spying on us, but we offer up all this information ourselves, voluntarily. So it's like, before you worry about the NSA, worry about, posting pictures with your address on Facebook, telling stories with a lot of identifying details, and then getting pissed when somebody steals your thunder before it happens. All right, I made it. Kyle better be better next week. But, hey, if you stuck with me this far, thanks. PeopleHateMyPodcast.com, CaveRadioBroadcasting.com, PendulumPodcast.com. Thanks for listening, Paul. See you.